Cool, guys. I put together some slides for you today. Actually, that's actually why I'm a little bit late, to be honest. I was just finishing with this. It took me quite a while. But in this training today, I'm going to be going through TrendX. I'm going to be going through the strategy and the scanner app and also the new updates. And I'm going to break it down into detail that's we've been speaking about for a while, but in a way that you can really absorb. I mean, I've really gone into super detail, showing you how simple and easy it is to trade with TrendX. And I recommend this for all the beginners and everyone starting in the group to start with TrendX. And then as you get proficient and understand how it works, then we can start incorporating Indicator X and some other strategies as well in the group. But this is going to be the most basic strategy. I really want to simplify this for everyone. I feel like some people overcomplicate trading, and trading is extremely simple at its core. The complicated part is the mindset developments, the psychology, and the emotions. And we will be going into more detail about that as well. But for today, I'm going to be breaking this down into the bare structure and bones of how TrendX works. So basically, it is a simple formula. There's two parts to it. There's the higher time frame bias, and there's the lower time frame for entries. So we're looking to the higher time frame to understand what is happening on the higher time frame. And in this strategy I'm going to be showing today, we're going to be focused on just using the 1 hour time frame. And in the lower time frame is what we're using for our entries. And in this example, I'm going to be showing you the 5 minutes. For the higher time frame bias, we're going to look at the weekly pivot, which is the yellow pivot. And it's so simple, guys. It's so simple. We're using the 1 hour time frame, which is best to view the weekly pivot. And all we're going to do is if price is above the weekly pivot, we're looking for longs. If price is below the weekly pivot, we're looking for shorts. This is how simple it is to figure out the higher time frame bias. So if price is above the weekly pivot, we're looking for longs. If price is below the weekly pivot, we're looking for shorts. So here's an example. Here we've got a weekly pivot, and you can see we've got the narrow pivots, which represent more of a trending market. And then we've got the more wider pivots, which represent more of a ranging market. But that doesn't matter. What matters is if price is above the weekly pivot, we're looking to go long. And for the shorts, we got the same thing. We've got a series of weekly pivots, and you can see prices underneath the weekly pivot, underneath the weekly pivot, and underneath the weekly pivot. When price is below the weekly pivots, we're looking for shorts only. So it's as simple as that, guys, to figure out the bias. Then on the lower time frame is where we're looking for our entries. And I've marked out 3 different entry points. These are the same entry points, basically for longs and for shorts. And how it's going to work is like this. So the first entry point is going to be when price gets to the previous day low and support 1, we're looking for longs. And I'm going to show you on the chart now exactly where these are. Number 2 entry point is going to be when price breaks above the daily pivot, we're looking for longs. And number 3 is when we get price at the previous day. Previous day high and resistance 1, break and retest, we look for longs. So we're going to be looking for our entries on the daily pivot, guys, on the daily pivot using the 5 minute time frame. And then for our shorts, short entry number 1 is previous day high, resistance 1, break below daily pivot, and previous day low, break, and support 1, break, and retest. So let me show you on the chart exactly where these are located. First, I'm going to go through the short positions, and I will also provide all these slides to you guys in the group so you can print them up and you can have a deeper look at them. But these are the short locations, which I just went into detail. Let me show you on the chart so it will all start to make a lot of sense where these locations are located. So these are where these locations are within the shorts. If we're looking for shorts, we're going on to the daily time frame. The daily pivot on the 5 minutes in this strategy. And our main short entries are going to be when price is towards the top. So So if you know the trend X, these two blue lines at the top represent the previous day high and the resistance one. So when price comes up into this zone over here, it can even come a little higher, but around this zone, this is where we're going to look to take entry number one for our shorts. Entry number two, we're going to take when price breaks below the pivot, the daily pivot, and we enter just as it breaks below. And then entry three will be if price breaks these bottom two blue lines, which is previous day low and support one. So these are going to be the only three places we're going to look to take short entries when price is underneath the weekly pivot. So price is under the weekly pivot on the high time frame bias. We've decided we're going to go short. Then we jump here to the daily pivot, what I'm showing you now. And the three short locations is when price gets to previous day high and resistance one, close to this area, or when it breaks the daily pivot, or when it breaks previous day low and support one. Here's some examples with the candles. So you can see previous first entry short would be previous day high resistance one. So if price comes up to these regions, we're looking to take shorts. If price is underneath the pivots, we're looking to take shorts. So it can either break beneath or it can open up. The market can open with price opening underneath the pivots. And then the third entry will be when price breaks below the previous day low and support one. That can be our third entry. Here's just some more examples. And guys, this will never be picture perfect. It'll always happen in many different scenarios and ways. But we'll give you the basic structure of what to look for. And based on that, it will definitely improve knowing where it is on the chart to enter at the best locations, and then the confirmations, which I'll get into just now. So number one, look for short entry by previous day high resistance one. And you can see I marked it out. Anytime price got to this level would have been the places we'd be looking. And then we always want to wait for confirmations, which is confirmation candles, which I'm going to go through just now to show you exactly. But when price gets to this level, we can actually start looking for confirmation candles, or we can also open the TDIX for confirmation as well. Number two, price breaks below the pivots. And that's also another area we can look to take a short entry, and you can see it broke below, retested, and then dropped. And number three would be when price breaks below previous day low and support one. So these are the three locations we're looking to take entries. The closer we can enter to the previous day high, the better the entry will be, and the higher the amount of profits you will make, because these two blue lines at the top, guys, is the top of the range. And if we're in a short market and we enter at the top of the range, it just means we're going to get this long, and a lot of percentages in profit on the short. So the closer we get to the higher of the range is going to be the number one entry. Number two entry is going to be breaking below the pivot. Number three over here. But the highest profit potential will going to be if you enter on number one and number two. These are the highest potentials. So then where are the targets? Those are our number three entries. And this is our four different targets that we can target on those entries. Once we enter on the high of the range, the previous day high, resistance one, target one can be the actual pivot. Target two can be the actual low of the range, which is the previous day low and support one. Target number three will be basically support number two, and target number four will be support number three. So these are the different areas we can take targets. It's up to you. If you enter at the top of the range, you can always take targets number one, target number two, target number three, and target number four. It won't always come down to your target number four, but it is more than likely it's going to come to target one and target two. And then after target two, the possibilities get a little bit lower of going to target three and target four. So it's up to you what kind of trade you would like to do. If you want to do just a short-term hold and exit, or take a chance and go higher. But what you can often do is when you enter your trade and you hit target one, then you can move your stop loss to entry. And then if you hit target number two, you can bring your stop loss to target number one. And here are the places where you would put your stop losses for these short positions. If you entered your trade at the top of the range, which is close to the previous day high and resistance one, you would put your stop loss just on top of these two blue lines. And you would enter here, and your target would either be at the pivot. If you entered on the pivot, your stop loss would just be underneath the pivot, and you would enter would be on top of the pivot, sorry, your stop loss, and you would enter underneath the pivot. And then if you did decide to enter at previous day low support breakouts, you would basically have your stop loss just on top of these two blue lines, and you would enter underneath at the break and the retest. So that is for our shorts. Now for our longs, guys, we're basically going to only look for longs. So in the strategy, we're only looking for longs on the daily pivot. The first place we will look for longs at the previous day low and support one. The second place will be the break above the daily pivots. And the third place will be if price breaks above the daily high and above resistance one. With a break and retest, we'll look for longs as well. So remember, guys, in this long example, we're only looking for longs when price is above the weekly pivot. When price is above the weekly pivot, we're coming onto the daily pivot. And we're going to look every day for that week. As long as price stays above the weekly pivot, we're looking for longs on the daily pivot. And these are the places we're going to look for long entries. Entry number one is going to be when price is close to the previous day low and support one. So it's the bottom of the range. This is going to be where we're going to get the best entries and the highest profit potential entries, because when we're in a long market and price gets to the daily range, this is where we have the biggest opportunity for it to make bigger movements. Our second entry is going to be when price breaks above the daily pivot. When price breaks above the daily pivot, we can look to enter our long position on the daily pivot. And our third entry is going to be when price breaks above the previous day high and resistance one. If price breaks below and finds support on that level, that is going to be the third entry. But number one entry is going to be one, number two entry is going to be two, and the third best entry is going to be number three. So we mainly want to look for one and two, and you can also take three, but our best ones that we're going to look for are entry one and number two. Here is an example on the chart. So you can see this was actually a trade that was given in the group a few days ago. Pramod actually gave it in his insights section. So this was a clear uptrend, which meant price was above the weekly pivot in this example. Then on this day, price was hovering below, well, not below, at the low of the daily range. This number one, daily range. So this would have been entry number one. It came up and it just touched the pivot. So, I mean, you could have exited at that point if you were a super scalper, but then it came down for another entry at the low of the daily range. So we would have got two entries on this day. Then price came up, broke above the pivot. And also, guys, you can see this is a very narrow pivot. So when we get narrow pivots on the daily, it is showing that there's a greater chance that there will be a trend happening on that asset that you're trading. So entry number two is going to be when price gets on top of the pivot over here. And then entry number three is when price breaks above previous day high and resistance one. And you can see in this example, it broke and it dropped down then on the second round. So you might have been taken out on the first round with your stop loss. Second round, you would have gotten in. And this hit targets two, target three perfectly. And these are going to be the places where we will look for long targets. So our first target, let's just say you enter your long position at the low of the daily range, which is the previous day low and support one. This is our first best entry. Then you're going to take target one is either going to be at the pivot. Target two is going to be at previous day high and resistance one. Target three is going to be at resistance two. And target four is going to be at resistance three level. So these are all the potential areas we're going to look to take targets. The highest potential that are going to occur more frequently is target one and target two. And then target three and target four is going to be a little bit less. So it all depends on how you like to trade. But you can just keep in mind these are target levels. And then our stop loss levels are basically, if we entered at the low of the range, which is the previous day low and support 1, our stop loss is going to be just under the blue lines. And then if we entered when price broke on top of the pivot, our stop loss is going to be at the low of the pivot, and our entry is going to be on top of the pivot. And then for our third entry, our stop loss is going to be just underneath these blue lines when price breaks and finds support on top of the blue lines. And yeah, you're going to keep nice tight stop losses in these examples. So remember, guys, with risk management, we're always only risking a little to make a lot, risking a little to make a lot. So sometimes you're going to be taken out of these trades, maybe 1 or 2 times, but that's okay, because when price does go in the direction, you're going to make 4 to 5 times the amount of profit as what you would have lost. So each win can buy you 3 or 4 losses. And inevitably, in the long run, your wins are going to be much bigger than your losses, which means you're going to end up with more profits in the long run than losses if you stick to the strategy and risk management of always keeping your stops nice and tight, following these points. Guys, in these examples, your stop loss is at a major structural point. So if it had to break below that point, it's invalidating the trade. However, we do get fake outs and we do get manipulation occurring in the market. But just stick to the strategy, and in the long run, you will become profitable. So now we're going to go into some confirmations, and we're going to use candles as a form of confirmation, because when price gets to these levels, like for instance, these levels over here, when price gets to these levels, how are we going to know when's the best time to enter? Oftentimes, you can just take a chance and enter on that level. That is strong enough. Just it being in that zone is a good enough reason to enter. But if we want to take it to another confluence level that can assist us, what are we going to do is we're going to add in a few candle confirmations. And to keep this simple for now, I've just added 4 different candles for you to remember. We're going to look for morning star patterns when price is for our longs, when price is at the low of the range, or if price breaks atop of the pivots, we're going to look for these morning star patterns. They're showing us that reversals can occur, so we're going to keep in mind these ideas, and I will show you some examples on the chart in a moment. And then for our shorts, we're going to look for evening star candles. Guys, these are doji candles. So you can see they've got little bodies and they've got even side wicks. And what this actually means is this means that price is coming to a place of indecision. In this example, you can see price pumps up, and then we have this doji evening star, which is showing price is coming to an indecision, because look here, we've got the equal amount of wicks, which means the buyers and the sellers are coming to a form of equilibrium. And usually this has a strong chance of showing a place where price can actually reverse. But keep in mind, we want to look for these candle patterns at key zones. So for instance, the morning star pattern, which is looking for longs, we want to look for the morning star pattern at these levels over here. So when price is at the low at entry 1, this is where we're going to look for the morning star pattern. Or if price breaks above entry 2 and dips back down, we look for the morning star pattern. And then the evening star will be in the opposite place. So for the evening star, we will be looking for our short positions. And I'll come and show you over here. If price gets to entry number 1, we're looking for the evening stars. If price breaks below entry number 2 and retests over here, we're looking for the evening star. So basically, all we want to do as an extra confluence is we want to look for morning star for our longs in the certain long key level areas, and the evening star will be located in the certain short key area levels, which I've marked out clearly for you. Another confluence candle that we can look for is we're going to look for shooting stars. And shooting stars are going to be our long confluence candles that we'll look for at those key areas that I've marked out on the chart. Or we're going to use a hammer, which is going to be, our shooting stars are going to be, for our short example candle, for our short confirmation, and then we're going to be using the hammer candle for our longs. This is going to be our long confirmation. So shooting stars are going to be used in these positions over here. We're going to look for shooting stars at entry number 1. So if price gets close to this level and we see a shooting star, that is a strong chance that we want to look to take our short positions. And then we've got the hammer candles for our longs. So if we see a hammer candle, guys, and you can look at these, take a good look at these candles, back test these candles on the chart to start to familiarize yourself with them. If we see a hammer candle and we see it forming in these positions over here, if we see a hammer candle forming in entry 1 position, that is going to be a strong confirmation that we're looking to take a long position. There's also engulfing candles, but I didn't actually mark those up today, but I will go through those on the chart with you now. So basically, guys, in a nutshell, that is the full strategy. It is actually super simple to follow. Now I'm going to take you onto the chart and I'm going to show you exactly how we would do this on the chart.
Hey, does this work with futures, with NQ and ES futures?
Definitely. This will work on any markets at all. Any market you trade, this will 100% work. If it's Forex, stocks, crypto, futures, anything, indices, it'll definitely work. Before I begin, guys, I want to show you the new features that I've added onto TrendX. So a lot of people mentioned to me that the market opens and they always miss these good trades at the market open. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So for instance, a lot of people are saying that when the market opens over here, they get the information too late and they actually end up missing it. So I've built in a new feature. If you look in TrendX, it's going to show you the next day pivot or the next week pivot or the next month pivot. And what this is doing, this is going to create a projection on the screen for you to show you where the next day's pivot will arise before it actually arises. And this is going to be a nice tool you can use if your country is basically, if the time frame in your country works well with the market open and market close. This is going to be great for you because say 2 hours before market closes, you'll be able to open this up and you'll be able to get a very strong idea of, first of all, what the pivot is going to look like, whether it's going to be a narrow pivot the next day, whether it's going to be a wide pivot the next day, and you're going to be able to see exactly, you're going to be able to get an idea of where price is located according to that next day pivot, which I believe is definitely going to give you a massive, massive edge in the market. So all you got to do is open the settings of TrendX and you can turn it on over here. You can just turn on next day to check it and you can turn it off and you see it's got some dots on it. If you want to change it to not have the dots on it, you can just come over into the style section and you can select line and then it will turn it into straight lines.
Do we need to uninstall and reinstall it or?
No, you don't have to uninstall. You can just refresh TradingView and it should automatically be loaded. I've reinstalled it on the mainframe, so everyone should have access to it now. If they just refresh their TradingView, it should start working. So I've created it to look like dots so that you can see the difference. And you can see here for today on say USDT, this is the new prediction of the next pivots where they'll be located. And we can monitor them throughout the day. They will change throughout the day as price changes, but we'll start to get a very strong idea of where the new pivots will be, especially 1 to 2, maybe 3 hours before the market close. You will have the upper hand and you'll have a good idea where the next day pivots will be located and if they're going to be narrow and if they're going to be wide. And this will work for all of them. It'll work for the daily. You can see over here, it'll work for your daily. It'll work for the weekly. So it'll show you towards the end of the week, we'll be able to understand what the next week's pivots are going to look like. And towards the end of the month, we can start to get an idea what the next month's pivots will look like. So I really believe this is going to give us all a massive upper hand and be able to to find out if a pivot will be narrow before the next day, which we haven't been able to do until now, and to find out if the pivots will be wide before the next day. So it will help us be able to, first of all, understand where the location will be of the pivot and if it's going to be narrow or wide pivot. The next update that I did for you guys is basically we added alerts to the actual pivots. So the actual pivots that were there never had alerts attached to them. So now, if you want to set them on, all you've got to do is right click on the pivot, click add alerts. And then over here, we can select any alert function. So we collect, all you got to do is select any alert function and you click create. And now when you actually open up the settings, whichever ones you have selected inside TrendX are the ones that will alert on that specific time frame, which is the 15-minute we just did it on. So it'll only work on the 15-minute now. And on the 15-minute, since I've selected it, every time price gets to any one of these levels that I've selected, the alerts will go off. So what alerts I have on here at the moment is I have resistance one's previous day high and support one previous day low. So anytime price hits these two blue lines on the top of the range or these two blue lines at the bottom of the range, the alert will go off. But the new change that I added today was if price touches the daily pivot. So if price touches any one of these three pivots, an alert will go off. And then I went and also added the price touch of the next day pivot. So if you turn on the next day pivot, there's just an alert that will go off every time price hits one of these pivots areas, one of these three. So now you have alerts at all the major areas. If price gets to the low of the range, you will be alerted. If price breaks through the pivots, you will be alerted. And if price gets onto the next day's pivot, you will be alerted. And then you can come in here and you can set it if you want it for the weekly. You can choose if you want the weekly, if you want the monthly as well. And then all you have to do, like I just showed you, you just have to right click, click add alert, click select any alert function, create, and that will be based on the time frame that you added on, which is the 15-minute now. So it'll only work for the 15-minute now. If you want to add it to different time frames, you can go to different time frames as well. But basically, it doesn't matter because with these pivots, it doesn't matter what time frame you're on. If price gets to that region, no matter what time frame it's on, it will alert you. And then, yeah, so basically now it's got alerts at all the major areas, which should be implemented. You should have access to it right now. And definitely use the alerts, guys. It's really handy. If there's an asset you're looking to trade, add the alerts on the day. I would add them for everything, for the weekly, for the monthly, and for the daily, because then you know exactly what's going on in those assets you're trading. If they ever get your key levels, it's a great time to look for a trade based on the criteria and the strategy that I just shared with you now. So I'm going to take off the next day pivot for now, and I'm going to give you an example now. I want to show you a very good example that was actually called out in the group. So as you know, guys, we've got Pramod, who's going to be assisting us in the group now. He is a master of trading TrendX. He's been trading TrendX for years, and he's got a section in the group now where he's going to be posting. If you go into the group and you go down to Team Trading Insights, you can see it's got BTC Daily Sentiment and Daily Narrow Insights. In the Daily Narrow Insights, he gave us a signal or a trade idea yesterday. What was the day before? Yesterday or the day before. And basically, I'm just going to walk you through that, and I'm going to show you exactly how he was able to give us that signal, what he was looking for, and how it coincides perfectly, guys, perfectly with what I was showing you. So basically, he looks, and in the strategy, we look if price is going to be above weekly pivot. This is for our bias, guys. This is based on the pivot. You can see, guys, we've got a yellow pivot over here. This is a weekly pivot, which represents 1 week's worth of information from the previous week. So whatever price action we got on this week over here, this previous week, it's going to tell us where the pivot is located on the current week. And as you can see over here, price is above the pivot at this location and at this location. So on the weekly pivot, when price is above the pivot, we're only looking for longs. And this is based on the strategy that I just showed you guys. We're only looking for longs if price is above, and this is for our higher time frame bias, and we're looking on the 1 hour time frame. So we're looking on a 1 hour time frame, which just makes it very easy for us to see what's happening in the chart. And then we're looking at the weekly pivot. If price is above the weekly pivot, and I'm actually going to mark off those areas. So this was the place where price got above the weekly pivots, and this is the place where price got above the weekly pivot over here. So as soon as price gets above the weekly pivot, guys, all you have to do then is you have to turn on your daily pivots and you start looking for entries at those exact entry locations that I was showing you. And for the week, so if price stays above the weekly pivot, let me show you this again. If price stays above this weekly pivot, guys, as long as price stays above this weekly pivot, we're going to be looking every day on the daily pivot for longs only longs. So you can see over here, as price is above here, I turn off the weekly pivot, I turn on the daily pivot. And now at these locations over here, I'm only looking for long positions, and I go to a 5-minute time frame to look for those. You can also look on a 15-minute if you like 15-minute. It will work the same because it doesn't matter what time frame you're on, the pivots stay exactly the same no matter what time frame you're on. This is the beauty of price action indicators. So you can see over here, let's go back to, you can see over here, from this place over here, okay, well, let's start off with the first location. You can see as price, this is where price, at this line where price was above the weekly pivot. And now that we're on the daily pivot, we come to the daily and we're looking for an entry above the pivot. So you can see this is where we first got the entry above over here. And this might have been a place where we look for an entry. We would have looked for an entry over here because it matched our criteria. And as you can see, guys, then price suddenly came down and we would have got stopped out over here. That's no problem, guys, because we only risked 1% on that trade. We got stopped out. Stops outs are going to happen. They're normal. They're part of the game. You know, I've heard some famous traders say that to win at trading, you've got to become a good loser. You've got to be good at losing. You've got to be okay with losing because it's part of trading is you're going to be stopped out. And when you can just accept that's just part of it, then it's okay to be stopped out. So we would have got stopped out here. Then price, you know, we can see over here, we had a little bit of this range occurring and that wasn't confident enough. But then over here, we got this nice big candle that broke out of this pivot. So what we would have done, we would have entered again, guys, and the stop loss levels are going to be located in the scenario. You can have nice tight stop loss levels just underneath the pivot. You know, when you do catch this, price should not come back down underneath the pivot. So pivots can be in validation zones, and we don't know if it's going to reverse or not. You can see it broke down to this area, so we don't know if it would have come further. So we can just have a tight stop loss. This one would have got stopped out. This one we would have actually caught this trade, which looked like it was a fantastic trade. If we entered, we would enter the top of the range, would be our stop loss, not our stop loss, our take profit region. But also notice in this example, which I often teach, you can see, look how wide, if you look from the actual point where we have a pivot to the low of the range and to the high range, it's actually a lot of distance, a lot of space. So when you get a pivot that has a lot of space like this, sometimes it won't hit the top of the pivot. In this scenario, it did over here. But if it didn't, all we're going to do is we're going to draw a fib. I've showed you guys how to use fibs, a Fibonacci, and we're going to look for price to hit either the golden pocket region or, you know, over 50 or 60%, 66% is a good area. So this would be a sure target that we would have taken on this trade. If we had targeted this level on this trade, we would have risked 1.5% and we would have made 8.72% on this trade. However, you can also set your target at the top of the range. And in this case, it went all the way to the top of the range and it did hit our targets. So if you're not willing to hold all this way, just take your profits at the 50 or the 60. or 66 level, which I like to target, which is up here. Otherwise, notice this, guys. Notice this. Price did come back. It did come back. And look what candle we've got here. We've got a morning star candle being presented. You can see we've got, this is the candle we're looking for. It's basically a little body and it's got basically equal sides. It's a little bit off, but it's a good enough example of a reversal candle happening. So we can wait for if we were going to enter again. So let's just say you missed this entry over here and price came all the way down here. It's not exactly at the pivot, but it's close enough. So when it gets to this region, that's when we can either look onto, you can turn on the TDIX for confirmations, and you can see we actually did have a shark fin over there. We had a shark fin. And the TDIX is a companion tool that we can just use to help us understand like where's a better place to entry. So at those locations that I spoke about, we can also use the TDIX, and we can look for candle confirmations at those locations. And I do recommend going back to this. So for instance, over here, if we got this Morningstar candle, and you can see we got an engulfing candle next, we could have entered on the engulfing candle. Our stop loss would have just come below the low. And then we could have targeted the top of the range again, or that 50% level, 50% or 66% level. Or if you know supply and demand, which I've been teaching you guys, you should have a good understanding. You can see we've got a supply zone over here. Remember, guys, this strategy I'm showing you is more for scalping. It's more for day trading. If you want to trade a bit more swings, you can apply the exact same strategy, except you would be using the monthly pivots as your higher time frame bias for your swings. But this strategy I'm showing you is wonderful for everyday trading, to looking to get to the charts, making 3 to 5, who knows, up to 10% a day just using this strategy. So if you'd entered on the pivot here and you held all the way to the top of the range, it would have hit there. And guys, I will show you next one of the trades I actually took. This was the same coin. Basically, if we go over here, I'm going to show you. So from this point over here, this is where price got on top of the weekly pivot again. So since price got on top of this level, we're only going to be looking for long entries in our specific location areas. And as you can see, those location areas would have been number one over here when price breaks on top of the pivot. However, guys, this is not a narrow pivot, but it's okay. It still can work as long as your higher time frame bias is correct. This will still work even if the pivot is narrow or wide. The only difference is if it's wide like this, you're going to see the profits are not going to be as high. I mean, you can see from the top to the actual resistance point, it's only 4% is pretty good, 4 to 9%. I guess this asset was a fantastic asset to be trading. So if we entered here, which was entry location number 2 that I was teaching you guys earlier, our target could have been, target number 1 would have been top of the range, target number 2 would have been your resistance number 2, and target number 3 would have been over here. So if you'd entered there, you could have taken target, and you can see it hit all of our targets, at this level. So that would have been a successful day trade. Then if we come to the next day, you can see we've got the same scenario. The next day, we've got a very, very wide pivot. So like sometimes it's good to stay out when pivots are wide, but otherwise, if you do get a wide pivot, guys, just make sure that your targets are a lot less than usual. If you get a narrow pivot, like a narrow pivot to trade on, you can have bigger targets. So for instance, you can see the day started here, price came all the way down, and then it broke above the pivot over here. So this would have been the place where we would have looked to take a long entry for that day. But remember, since it's a wide pivot, we're not going to have as big target areas. So we could have either targeted the top of the previous day high over here, which would have been a good, because you can see, look at this example. Look how wide these two resistance lines are, the previous day high and resistance 1. When they're that wide, guys, it prices to travel so much further to break through them. So what you do, you can just look to take profits when price hits the first key level. Could have entered over here, and you would have taken profit at this point. So this would have been your trade on this day. Stop loss would have been, you can see, guys, in this example, your stop losses would be different from the way I explained it because it is such a long range. So we don't want our stop loss to be that long. So we'd maybe make it halfway through one of these levels. You can see all the swing low. You can see at this point where we entered, we had a swing low. Stop loss can just go under that swing low point. Because we've got such a wide pivot, if we had to have a stop loss all the way down here, it would increase the risk by so much, because look here, it's 11% stop loss. So we can just keep just the below this swing low point over here in this example. And this would have been our trade. We would have risked 2% and we would have made 8%. And you can see price came down again, guys. So in this example, price comes down to the pivot again. Then all we do is we wait for candle confirmations. In this example, we get an engulfing candle. So you can see all of a sudden, price comes down. We got this candle. Engulfing candle just means the bullish candle is so much bigger than the bearish candle. So in this engulfing candle, we would have also checked on the TDIX. And as you can see on the TDIX, we've also got a super shark fin. We've got price coming down into this oversold level. We've got a dot and we've got a shark fin. That's a very strong confirmation that price will reverse. And also notice it's happening right above the pivot. So when we get these, remember when price comes into our entry locations, that's when we can either look for candles, and we're looking for either the candles I showed you is we're looking for a reversal candle, which are these morning candles, or we're looking for these engulfing candles. So morning star or an engulfing candle, or it's a hammer candle that we're looking for. And then once again, we would have entered at that close of that engulfing candle, and our target is going to be the top of the range, and our stop loss is going to be below the low. And that would have been a trade. We could have got actually 2 trades on this day or 1 good trade. Guys, I can strongly recommend that me and Pramod have been talking a lot. And what's going to help you guys so much is if you stick to just 1 to 2 coins per week maximum. All you're going to do is you're going to pick 1 or 2 coins from the weekly list. You've either got the weekly list that comes into the group, or if you've got the scanner app, which I'm going to show you more details just now, you're going to just pick 2 tokens per week from the list. And those are going to be the ones that are either above the pivot, above the weekly pivot to look for longs for the week, and below the weekly pivot to look for shorts for the week. And I recommend just sticking to those 2 tokens only for the whole week. It's going to reduce confusion a lot. It's going to help you stay super focused, and it's really going to help you make profits more consistently. A lot of guys, I believe, are looking at way too many tokens, and then they're missing out on so many opportunities, and they end up just getting confused. So if you're not a professional trader and you know how to trade multiple tokens at once, I recommend just picking 1, maximum 2 tokens to trade, and just trade according to the weekly. So look at the weekly. If it's above the weekly, you're looking for longs. If it's below, you're looking for shorts. And then you're just trading those tokens on the daily pivot every single day. It really will reduce confusion so much for you. Now, guys, this is a trade that I actually took in the group and that Pramod gave in the group. He basically said to us, so this was his analysis. And he gave this in the group like before it happened. So just to show you guys how simple this is and how effective this is, he looked at Trend X. He looked at the weekly. He started in the weekly. And guys, this strategy is so simple now, really breaking it down to make it so simple for you guys. So keep it super simple. You can see price is above the weekly. This is it. This is the whole formula, guys. Price is above the weekly pivot. So we're only looking for longs in those key areas that I showed you. That's it. Price is above the weekly. So now we can turn off the weekly. And then on this day over here, on this day, Pramod said to us, he actually posted this in the group. You can go check it out. He said to us, Price is above the weekly, so we're looking for entries on the daily pivot at our locations. And the first location is going to be the bottom of the range. So we want to look at the bottom of the range. You can see price came down to the bottom of the range here once and twice. So our two entries were going to be over here. These were our two entries. And if you guys look carefully, look at the candles that we've got here. Look at the candles. And remember, guys, we've got the high time frame bias is concluded. We're above the weekly, so we're only looking for longs. So now we're on the daily pivot, and we're looking for long entries either at the low of the range or at the break of the pivots, or when price gets on top of the previous day high and resistance one. So price was in our first entry location. This is the best place to look for entries because this is where you're going to get the highest profit potential. And then look here, guys, we've got reversal candles happening. We've got some tweezer candles happening over here. You know, these candles is kind of like a hammer. You can see we've got hammers, reversal candles, these little dojis. Once you see these candles happening in these key locations, this is a strong sign reversals are going to occur in these places. And it matches our criteria. Number one, it's at the low of the daily range and it's above the weekly pivot. So we are ready to go. So this could have been our first entry over here. We could have entered on these tweezer candles closes up here. Stop loss would have been underneath the candles in this instance. And our first target would have been the top of, well, the top of the actual pivot, hitting the pivot, which is the middle of the range. That would have been target number one. And you can see it didn't quite hit the range. So like you would have had to either look at your TDIX, and you can see we get a shark fin happening. So this is a good place to learn how to enter and exit. You can see our entry zone would have been at the key level, bottom of the range, and our exit would have been the top. If price didn't hit here, and we want to figure out if price is going to reverse before hitting that area, we can just keep looking at the TDIX, and you can see we get a shark fin, which just shows us there's a high probability that price is going to reverse in that location. So price went up, we saw the shark fin. If we didn't see the shark fin, we might have just seen price reversing, and then maybe we would have missed. Because guys, a lot of times people will get into a trade, and look at this. They go into profit. You would have been almost 4% profit, and then price would have come all the way down back to the low of the range, and you would have lost all that profit. But it doesn't matter because you would have been given a second chance here. And you can see we get a reversal candle happening on our key level. That would have been another sign to enter the trade. We can enter at the close of the candle, and the stop loss comes underneath these two blue lines. And then we can target the pivot, which is target number one, or we can target the top of the range, which is target number two. So it's up to you what you want to do. You know, if I know a lot of scalpers, they don't need 8%, 4% is good enough. But in this scenario, because you are entering, if you're entering at the low of the range, the chances of you getting higher profits and holding to the top of the range is very possible. So if you're at the bottom of the range, definitely you can set your target to the pivot, and 100% you're going to have a greater chance of hitting target here. But if you enter at the low of the range, there's a very big chance price is going to go and hit the top of the range. Also bear in mind, guys, look at this daily pivot. This daily pivot is super narrow, super narrow. It's super narrow. And this was one of the strong reasons that Pramod called this out into the group. Look here, guys. This is called an inside pivot. Can you see this pivot is inside the previous day's pivot? When you get an inside pivot, it is a strong chance that there's going to be a big movement. That's in combination with the fact that price is above the weekly pivot, which means we're only looking for longs, and then price, we're looking for longs in the best locations, which are going to be the bottom of the range. So we had three good criteria, four actually. Number one, we've got an inside pivot. Number two, we've got a narrow daily pivot, which shows us it's going to be a trending market. And number three, price is in our perfect entry locations, which are at the bottom of the range. And we're on an uptrend, which means price is above the weekly pivots. So when you put all those little areas into place, it really makes trading simple and gives us a very structured form of trading. There's no room for error here, guys, because we know exactly what we're looking at. So first entry would have been here. First target would have been the top, or as price hits the pivot. Then our second entry would have been when we got confirmation of this reversal candle in our key area at the bottom of the range. Stop loss is just under the blue lines, and we can target the top of the range as well. I actually took this trade. I think I'm still actually even in this trade, to be honest. I haven't even exited yet, because look here, price went all the way up. I mean, I got in at the bottom of the range when it gave the signal. I'm still in, so I'm up 20%, which is incredible, actually, super incredible. But if you missed these two entries, remember, guys, these two entries would have been the best two entries. Then the next best would have been when price breaks above the pivot, which is just like I've been showing you guys. This would have been your next best entry. So we would have entered maybe a price broke above with such strong volume. So if price just breaks above, you can just take an entry, and stop loss is underneath the pivot. This would be our first target. Our first target is going to be the top of the range. Remember, guys, if you enter over here, the top of the range, you're not going to get as high profit potential as you would at the bottom of the range. But in a lot of scenarios, price doesn't come to the bottom of the range. Maybe it just comes and breaks, or you don't get to it in time. Target 1 is going to be previous day high, resistance 1. Target 2 is going to be resistance 2. And target 3 is going to be resistance 3. And you can see, remember, when we've got these tight pivots, when we've got these tight daily pivots, there's a stronger chance that price is going to hit all of our targets. There's a stronger chance. And because it was an inside pivot. So remember, if you're trading, like here, I'll show you an example. Look at this day. Look at this day over here. Look how wide the daily pivot is. Look how wide it is. So it's showing it's more of a ranging market. And then look, price did not get higher than the previous day high. It didn't even get to resistance 1. It stayed right on this level. Didn't even get to the top. So those are things you can keep in mind. If price is showing a wide pivot, then you can still trade it, but set your targets much lower. If you're going to trade a narrow pivot, you can set your targets higher, because you know the chances are higher that price is going to go into a trending market. And then you can set your targets at resistance 2, resistance 3 levels. And in this example, it hits all of those points. So guys, this is the strategy pretty much in a nutshell. It's pretty simple. I know we talk about it a lot, but I really wanted to break it down for you into its core elements, so that when we do further training, and when Pramod goes over it in more detail, you will actually understand. And also, guys, when you go into the group now, so I'm just gonna take you into the group, and I want to show you when we go into the actual group and we look. See, Pramod is going to give. We've got this area where it says Team Trading Insights. And you can see here, this is what Pramod posted. This is exactly what he posted. And you can see, guys, that was that exact trade I took, the exact breakdown I showed you. Price was at the bottom of the range. This is what he said. He said, ONG, it's above the weekly pivots. Remember, that's the high time frame bias. And then he said, it's below the daily, look for long positions, below the daily pivots. So you can see over here, price was at the low of the range, and this is where he said take the entry. And then he also said it was an inside pivot. You can see here, inside pivots. That was also an inside pivot. So it's another confirmation. You can look when you're looking through your tokens, look for inside pivots, look for narrow pivots on the daily that are in alignment with our confluence. And then over here, this was the actual trade. So if you didn't know how far it was going to go, if you entered at the bottom of the range, all you could have done is when price broke on top of the range, you could have moved your entry, your stop loss to entry at each level. So if you entered at the bottom of the range and price got to the pivot, then what you're going to do is you're going to move stop loss to entry. Then as price moves to the next target level, previous day high, you're going to move stop loss to the previous to the actual pivot level. So every time price goes higher, you're gradually raising your stop loss level higher. And he said here, you can always hold 50% of the trade. So what you can also do is you can cash out at a target level, take 50% of your trade off the table, and then move your stop loss higher, and then you can trail it to see how high it will go, because we never know how price is going to actually go. So guys, make sure you stay tuned to these new channels, BTC Daily Sentiment. You can see this morning, Pramod said here, price has opened above the weekly pivot. So when Bitcoin opens above the weekly pivot, it's a strong chance that it's going to pull a lot of the altcoins with it and make the altcoins a bit more bullish. And then he's going to come in here. And also notice, guys, like I gave you a scanner message this morning saying that the weeklies, 95% of price was above the weeklies and also above the 200 EMA, which Pramod will be teaching a lot in his strategy. And if you've watched our previous training videos, you'll see we use the EMA, the 200 EMA as confluences as well. So now I just wanted to, before I take questions, I just wanted to go into some details about the scanner and how we can use the actual scanner to our advantage as well. So as you guys know, we have a scanner. A lot of people have been asking me to just do a quick tutorial. So I want to just do a quick tutorial to show you guys. Can you guys see the scanner at the moment?
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. For those of you guys who do have the scanner, this will apply to you. And for those of you who don't, we are busy working. I'm busy working with a developer now, because our main issue has been, giving access to the scanner to people on the monthly, because we don't have a subscription basis applied to the scanner yet. So I have a coder who's coming in to work with me this week, we're going to actually be doing a lot of developments on the scanner. We're going to be adding a lot of enhancements as well, because guys, we love you. We always want to bring you better and better and constantly improve to make things easier for you all. But what we're going to do is we want to start making the scanner available for monthly members. But we need to build, I actually need to get a coder in there and work the whole week with him. It's going to cost quite a lot of money to build it, but after it's built, we will be able to implement a subscriber basis for the scanner so that everyone can have the scanner as well. So basically how the scanner works, guys, we open it up to the first page and we're going to get these 3 charts. The first chart is going to show you the monthly pivot. It's going to give you a percentage, and that percentage is going to show you the percentage of how many coins are above the monthly pivot or below the monthly pivot. You can see right now, guys, this was taken, well, this is live right now. I'm showing this live right now. We've only got 5% of tokens are above the monthly pivot. And the monthly pivot represents our long-term trend. So on the long-term trend right now in this moment, we're actually bearish according to our strategy here. And then on the weekly, as the market open, guys, I love to open this up at market open or when I wake up in the morning, because it's going to tell me what is the conditions for the next week. And you can see 95%, guys, of the tokens opened up above the weekly pivots. And this is a very strong sign. If you look every Monday, when the weekly market opens, and you can look at this to give you an idea of what the week's trading environment is going to look like. Since we had 95% open above the weekly pivot, if this holds, guys, if these tokens hold above the weekly pivot, for the next week, we're only going to be looking for longs on the daily time frame. And then we come to the daily, and you can see 90% are above the daily as well. So if we've got a bullish weekly, then we're looking only longs on the daily. If we've got a bearish weekly, we're only looking for shorts on the daily. And this is a great way to open it up and get confirmations to keep you on the right track. I can't tell you guys how many times, if the weekly is bearish, people are looking for longs in the daily. We must stick to our rules. Only if the weekly is bullish, we're looking for longs on the daily. Remember, guys, this strategy is a safe strategy. This strategy is a tried and tested strategy. So there are different ways to trade, of course, but if you are following this strategy that we're teaching, this is the rules. Otherwise, there are many other strategies that you can implement that you could use that are different to this. And there are people in the group that do trade in many different styles, but I'm specifically talking about our Trend X strategy when I'm teaching now. And then what this does is it breaks it down into more detail. So you can see the red is going to be the monthly, the yellow is the weekly, and the blue is the daily. So right now you can see we're 95% bearish on the monthly, 5% bearish or 95 bullish on the weekly, and 90% bullish on the daily. And it gives us a score here. So our sentiment score at the moment is 36% bearish and 64% bullish at the moment, just because price is still underneath most of the monthly pivots. But for the week, guys, on the midterm trading time frame, we are actually bullish. For the week, we are bullish, and we can look for bullish and bearish. I mean, bullish long positions the whole of this week if price sustains the weekly level. And then you can see we've got an overall score here, which is the 64%. And then, guys, we've got a feature here where you can select 5 different exchanges. These were the main exchanges we could actually use because the APIs worked very well. And you can go into either Mexi over here, and it will give you, sometimes it will change. You can see in Mexi, we've got 93% above the weekly pivot. In OKX, we've got 94%. In BitGet, we've got 96%. In Binance, we've got 97%. And in Bybit, we've got 95%. So it'll vary from exchange to exchange, just because the tokens are different, and also sometimes the price action is a little bit different from exchange to exchange. Then over here, we've got option number 2, guys. And this is where we're going to go into our filters. How we start is we turn off all the selections, and then from this point, we can decide what we're looking for. So here you'll see if I select monthly, and I look for anything that's above the monthly, wide or narrow. So right now, there's no tokens above the monthly that are narrow. So if I select wide, you can see these are the tokens right now where price is above the monthly grid, which means all of these tokens are showing us that on these assets, there's long-term bullishness, because the monthly time frame, the monthly pivot represents the long-term bullish. Then we go into the weekly, which represents the midterm. If it's above the weekly, these are the midterm that are bullish. You can see here, if we just select narrows, these would be, guys, if you select weekly above narrow, these are going to be the ones that you want to look to for the next week to enter your long positions, because these are all narrow on the weekly time frame, and because they're green, it's showing they're above the weekly. You'll see if they're below, okay, see right now there's actually no tokens that are below the weekly right now in this example. Okay, so if we're going to look to trade, this is what I recommend. You want to go to the weekly, and we want to look for assets that are above the weekly and that are narrow. And then you can also go to the daily the next day to look for examples. And then, guys, we went a step further, and our recent version 3 upgrade allows you to click on them. So if we're looking for a trade, we can come to the weekly above narrow, and we can click on it, and it can show us more detailed examples. I want to show you, if we turn these off, we're just left with the pivot. And you can see price, we've got a narrow pivot over here. Price is above the narrow pivot. So this is where we're going to look to take our long entries. If price stays above that weekly pivot, guys, we're looking to take longs for the rest of the week. And then we can go onto the daily time frame, and you can see if we had been aware of this morning, we would have had an entry at the low of the range. Can you see we've got a reversal candle at the low of the range? That would have been our entry. And chances are this is probably going to hit the high of the range. So it's just showing you how easy this is, guys. You look, if price is on top of the weekly pivot, we come to the daily, and then we look for either entries at the low of the range, at the break of the pivot, or at the break of the high of the range. Those are the entry locations. We can also come to the monthly here and we can look. You can see if price got to the low of the monthly range. And you can see we've got a reversal candle. We've got a hammer candle. That is a strong sign that price is actually reversing on the monthly. So this is a very quick way we can actually, we can go through all the different filters. We can see where they are in the weekly. It's above the weekly. Then we can click on to the daily. What I like so much about this scan is it's quick, guys. It's quick to find the assets. It's quick to go into the assets. And then once you fine tune and find the ones you want, then you can open up TradingView, which you can click over here to open the TradingView. Right now, this TradingView button doesn't take us directly to TradingView. I'm not going to click it now because I'm actually on my computer using an emulator. So there is an emulator you can use called the BlueStacks emulator up here, which allows you to project this app onto your computer. And I like to use it on the computer because it looks quite nice, and then you don't have to look on your phone. We've also added exchanges over here. So if you click on the Bybit in the corner, it will actually open up Bybit. So you can open up, if you don't have a Bybit subscription or link with them, you can open up and you can connect to Bybit. And we have that on all of them. So if you go to Binance and you click the Binance logo, you'll be able to open an account with Binance. And the same with all of them. If you go into, let's say, OKX, and you click on the OKX logo on any one of these pages, you can open up an account with OKX directly through here. So that's as simple as this is, guys. You come to the filters. First of all, we start here. We look at the sentiment. We can see majority, because, guys, the crypto market moves in waves. It moves in waves. So what this scanner allows you to do is to observe the wave of the market. And what the majority of the market is doing, it's showing us what is the wave of the market. And that's letting us know that when we actually pick tokens, we know that the wave is bullish. So then when we come here and we look for these tokens, we can be assured that we're hopping on a bullish wave. Then we want to look for narrow tokens, because narrow tokens are trending tokens. You can also look for wide tokens if you want. If you want to do range trading, look for wide tokens. If you want to look for narrow, then we can do more trending tokens. And you can see all of these look good, guys. IOST looked good when I saw it this morning. IOST on the weekly, look, it's above the weekly. It's a narrow. And look, guys, this is an inside pivot grid. So you can see this pivot, which is basically this pivot range, which is the pivot, the high of the range and the low range, is inside the previous pivot grid. So this has a very strong potential. A lot of these do. Most of these do, guys. Most of these ones here, which are on the weekly narrow, these all look very good for the week. And if they are still above the weekly pivot tomorrow, we are game, guys, on the daily pivots. We're game. So just remember to stay tuned to that. The IOST looked very good. You can see it was above on the weekly. We go into the daily, and you can see this would have been an entry on the pivots, or when it broke, it hit target one, hit both these targets, and then it came back down. So this could have been a re-entry, guys. Can you see we've got a reversal candle over here on IOST? This could be a re-entry, because if price gets close back down to the pivot and we get reversal candles, that can also be a re-entry when looking with the TDIX. And once again, you can just click on the TradingView logo at the top, and it'll take you through the TradingView. It doesn't take you directly through to the chart. We were not able to achieve this, so it'll take you to one page, and then you'll click take me to chart, and then it'll take you to the page. So it's got a little bit of a process. And then, guys, an exciting feature over here. If you want to favorite these coins, you don't want to go through this process tomorrow. Just click on them, and you see they'll turn purple. If they turn purple, it means you are adding them into the favorites folder. And then if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, we've got a heart. If you click on that heart, it's going to add all those tokens to the favorites. If you click on them again, it'll take them out of the favorites. So say we're only looking at 2 tokens, because that's what we're recommending, to just stick to 2 tokens for the week to follow. Then you can just add them into your favorites folder. Then you can just come into your favorites folder. And every day you can turn on the daily. Okay, I'm just exiting all my other, I had a whole lot of other favorites added here as well. So then what we'll do is, once you come into your favorites folder, we turn on the weekly and the daily. And now we start looking at these to trade every day. Click on the daily. Every day we look. So when you wake up in the morning, click on the daily, see where it's located. We know, guys, that this is an uptrend because it's above the weekly pivot. So when we come to the daily pivot, we're just looking for longs at entry points, low of the range, break of the pivot, or high of the range. Those are two entry, and you can see right now would have actually been an entry. BCH is basically on top of the pivot. We might have just missed it, but that would have been an entry. We've got a rejection into the pivot. So guys, this is the Scanner X app. It is amazing. Really, guys, this is the greatest tool ever. This is a tool that I only dreamed to have before it was created. And now I didn't even think it was possible to create, to be honest, but I'm working with an incredible coder who was able to code this for me and make it super easy just to get in, find the best things to trade, and then be able to access them super quick and easy. And then guys, if you want another edge, which is what I've just developed, I'm going to show you how to use it. So if we can see prices above the weekly pivot, which we know that we're looking for only longs, then what we're going to do, guys, what you're going to do is this is where you will use the new device that I've recently created, which is basically, I'm just going to reshare this, which is basically going onto your charts and adding the next day's pivot. So if you want to get a better idea of your entry, if you want to look into the future to find out what's going to happen, we're going to add these next day pivots, and this is really going to help you be able to get a bit more of an edge to find out where's that next day pivot going to be located, because we know at this point, we know market is going up. We know because we looked on the weekly pivots, it's above the weekly pivot, market's going up. So now we're just looking for our entries, and using this next day pivot will really help us be able to target those before we get there, because so many times people are missing, guys. People are missing the actual, because you'll see if you look every morning, a lot of people are telling me every morning they get there, they miss their entries, prices already taken off the pivot, which is going to happen if you don't live in a country where the timing works out good. Chances are you're going to miss that open. You're going to miss that open. But with this, you will understand an hour or two before the market closes, you're going to be able to see where the market is going to be opening and where price is in relationship to that grid. So it's definitely going to give you guys extra edge. All right, guys, I think that's all for my explanation. Do we have any questions? Wait, okay, cool. I see Henry, you've got your hand up.
Yes, sir.
Henry.
Yes, sir.
How you doing, buddy?
I must thank you for this innovation. I must thank you, the entire team, for what you're doing for us. The ability to convert your creation into something tangible. Thank you very much. I have two questions. Number one.
Yes, thank you.
Number one, when I look at, when you mentioned that the daily pivot are inside the previous one.
Yes.
And then prices are likely to escalate, to go very high.
Yes.
And you have demonstrated the manual movement of stop loss.
Yes.
I have an idea that the group, our team here, can adapt what we call trading stop loss. Specifically for such cases where we have an inside pivot, daily pivot.
Okay.
Do you think it can work that way?
Yes. Explain it to me. Let's go through it again. Exactly what you were saying, and then I'll write a chat for everyone. So you say when there's an inside pivot.
Yes. Then there are high chances of prices hitting even target 2, 3.
Yes. You're right. Exactly. It has a high chance that price is going to come to these higher levels. Yes, you're right.
Yes. So I think that group members should adapt, should learn to use the trading stop loss, which many exchanges actually give a chance.
Yes. Good idea. So when you enter here, when price hits your first target, you can move your stop loss up. If it moves up again, you can move it up higher. So we're just trailing, you're just moving your stop loss as price is going higher, especially in these cases with inside pivots. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that when we have inside pivot, we can activate the automatic trailing stop loss so that it does automatically, not
Yes.
manually
Okay.
like you are doing it.
Yes, yes, exactly. No, that's a very good point. So, guys, he's bringing a very good point. He's saying that, if price has an inside pivot, the chances of it hitting our target, our higher targets, is much higher. So, making sure you have a trailing stop loss implemented, because then you can get the most out of these trades.
Yes.
I think
Then the other
I think
question.
the only problem with the trailing stop loss on these smaller coins, just as a thought, Henry, maybe you can tell me if you disagree, is that these coins are so volatile. If you imagine on this particular sheet you've got in front of us, you had a trailing
Yeah.
stop loss.
Yeah, you would have been hit.
The
Yeah.
viciousness of the pullbacks would I don't know how high a stop loss you have and where it's going to be trailing, but I can see it getting stopped out quite quickly if it's just trailing.
Yeah, in
because
my case,
so volatile.
I want to qualify this, that after the range, after you have hit the range, you see the pivot, then we have that range. Then after that one, you can, because now we have target resistance 2, resistance 3. So after that, probably after hitting the range, you can activate the trailing stop loss, because already you have medium. That's what I think.
Yes.
I
No, it's good. It's
I
good.
feel the volatility can be a detriment to profit maximization if that's what you're looking at, as opposed to ease. If you're looking for ease, just step away and just leave it. Then trailing, I think, can make sense. I don't know, Seth, your thoughts on the volatility of these and the trailing stop losses?
Yeah, well, what he's saying is, okay, what you could do is, so in this example, say you enter at the bottom of the range here, and then price hits the top of the range, then you move your stop loss. You can move your stop loss higher, or you can activate your stop loss. But you'll see in this example, if price had to have hit our second or third target here, and we had a stop loss, we would have been taken out over here in this example. So yeah, I think as long as you secure, because what you can also do is, if you enter at the bottom of the range, this is what Pramod recommended, and then you hit the top of the range, you can take 50% of your profits off the table.
Yes.
Which is also good.
That is great. And then the second question is,
Yes,
you have your demonstration you have made. We looked at weekly as the higher time frame bias, and then daily as the lower time frame bias. What about long-term trade? Are we looking at monthly and as the bias, and then weekly as the lower time?
100%. Very good question. I'll show you right now. So if you're going to be looking for a longer term trade, then you're going to start with the monthly. And we're going to use the same formula, except instead of using the weekly and the daily, we're using the monthly and the weekly. And then we'll use a higher time frame for the monthly, like maybe a 6 hour or an 8 hour. So in this example, what we were doing is we're waiting for price to get above the monthly. And as soon as price is above the monthly time frame for our swing trade, that's when we can go to. So there's different kinds of swings. This would be for like a mini swing. If price is above the monthly pivot, then we can go to the weekly pivot. So we can turn off the monthly, we can go to the weekly. And then what we'll do on the weekly, we're only looking for entries in the same example when price is either, so you can see when price is either on top of the pivot, we're looking for entries. Or when price is at the bottom of the weekly range, we look for entries. It's basically the same formula. We're just replacing the weekly with the monthly and the daily with the weekly. It's exact same formula. So like I'll turn this on just in a basic form. So you can see here. So at this point here, this would have been perfect. You can see at this point, we're above the monthly. And then price isn't at the low of the range of the weekly because it's down underneath the monthly. So our entries would have been, we would have got a great entry over here or over here. Would have actually had two very good entries at this point. One entry we would have taken profit over there. Second entry hits over here. And now we've got the same scenario happening again. So because we are above the monthly now on this token, if price comes down to the low of the weekly range, this is a place where we can look for a long, or when price is above the weekly, which it is now. So like right now, this coin ONG is probably going to be a great coin to day trade, or you can wait for price to come back down to the weekly, and then everything applies the same, guys, as a strategy. Everything applies the same. The only difference is, I'm just going to write this out here. The only difference is the higher time frame bias is based on the monthly pivot. And then you can enter your entries will be on the weekly pivot. This is if you're going to be doing more bigger swing trades. So it's the same formula that I taught today, the same formula. The only difference is that now you're just going to be using the monthly and the weekly. And you can use the monthly, weekly, and you can use the daily for more of a precise entry if you wanted. But otherwise, you can enter on the higher time frames just like this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you.
Okay, it's a pleasure.
Sir?
Awesome. Yes.
Yes. I have a question. Like staying with that. Staying with that same idea. Looking for a coin on a monthly basis.
Yes.
I just used the scanner X like you showed us earlier, and it came with a coin called Bell, BEL.
Bell, yes. Let me have a look.
And if you look at it, you're gonna see it's above the monthly. It's also above the weekly.
Oh, great, great.
Right now,
let's turn on the weekly.
I was looking also at the daily.
Great. Okay, so let's have a look at the daily. Let's go into 5 minute.
It's just below the daily right now.
It's waiting for this to load. Just going to turn off this next day. Yeah, you see, so every time price came below here, can you see we've got these reversal candles?
Yeah.
This would be like pretty much the best location to look for longs, somewhere around here. If it comes lower, and the next would be if price breaks above here. Okay. So this could be a great long-term one because you can see it's above the monthly, it's above the weekly. So I think every day this would be a great one to open up and look at, and just wait for it to be in these specific areas. Looks good.
Like this one, like you showed us, we could put alerts and to a level we would be comfortable entering, and hopefully keep it riding for the bull market.
Definitely. I mean, there's very few tokens that are above the monthly at the moment. So this is one of the very few, and you can see over here already we got. I mean, look how perfect this was. This came directly onto the pivot here. We could have got an entry there or there. Was perfect entry. Above the monthly, above the daily.
Is that daily coming down, even though it's tight, indicate anything towards its overall trend?
The daily doesn't matter so much. I mean, because you're going to get this up and down movement on the daily, as long as it's above the weekly, we're just waiting for it to get. Because look, if because we're above the weekly, you can see here, because we're above the monthly and the weekly, if price opened up at the top here, can you see price is opening up basically at the previous day high? So we're not going to look for longs. We want to look for longs at the low of the daily range. This is the area we want to look. So we wouldn't have taken that anyway. We would have waited for it to come all the way down. And then maybe over here, we would have started looking for a long because we're bullish. And you can see a few other things we can add. We've got a trend line break as well.
Yeah,
And then over here, we've got it's ranging, but you can see every time it got to the low of the range, we can also turn on the TDIX, and you can see this would have helped us quite a lot here because we know at this point it's above the weekly, it's above the daily, so we're only looking for longs. So if we turn on TDIX, you can see over here we've got a divergence. Divergence are really great ways, and then over here we've got another wait. Oh no, this is a continuation. But then you can just look at the candles, these reversal candles. This is an engulfing candle over here. So you just got to like really zoom in.
But even then, Seth, you introduced the concept of key levels. I can see a key level here where you put your these yellow arrows.
Yes.
So I probably also can give an indication.
Yes, exactly. If it gets to a key level, you can use TDIX, you can look at the candles. But definitely, guys, familiarize yourself with those candles. Either the morning star, the evening star, these reversal candles, the hammer, the shooting star, and then also the engulfing. Because you'll see this is an engulfing candle over here. You can see where we've got this bearish, and then all of a sudden this bullish engulfs it. So it's kind of showing that there's momentum coming in. Can you see? So usually these are very good signs of reversal because you can see this didn't really happen until it got all the way down here, and then it finally happened. So that's a nice engulfing candle. Over here, you can see this is more of like a hammer. It's not a perfect hammer, but we're never going to get like perfect. Maybe sometimes this is a hammer, or over here we've got a morning star. That's a morning star candle over here. You can see we've got two of them, this one, then this one, and then we get an engulfing. So we've got a morning star, and an engulfing, but this wasn't the best location to look for a long. I'm just showing you the idea of observing the candles. You can see over here, this is a nice doji. You can see when we've almost got equal, or that, what do they call it, a Darth Vader candle as well. So you can see this is a nice reversal candle. This is a, yeah.
Will it be right to suggest because the pivots are wide here, it's more of a ranging market rather than?
Yes, exactly. This is more of a ranging market. Yeah. This, because we can choose, like I would rather pick more narrow tokens on the daily because we'll get bigger trades. You can see with this, it's just kind of, it's not really going anywhere, it's just staying within this range. And I mean, you still could have maybe,
since the last 3 dailies were on an upward trend, that coming down a little bit from Pramod's teachings before, he would say it's run quite a bit, so now it's going to go into accumulation or ranging, or as he says, confusion.
Exactly.
So you're better to look at it tomorrow.
Exactly. So whenever it makes a big movement, like you can see, if it makes a big move like this, the next day or two, it's going to be wide, and then it just resets, and you'll see, because it's ranging now, like, look at this, guys. You're going to love this. So let's look. If I turn on next day pivot, look, what does it look like? Ta-da! Looks like we might have a narrow pivot tomorrow. So if we're going to get a narrow pivot tomorrow, it's a good sign because this asset might be a good coin to trade tomorrow, better than today. And maybe even the next day, if it doesn't do anything on tomorrow, then the day after, I got to figure out how to invent a next day pivot.
If you guys just had chills, put a 1 in the chat. Because as soon as he hit that button, I got goosebumps. I don't know, you guys. I saw some of your faces just drop and like, whoa.
I want to imagine the food you eat, you people. Wow.
Hi, Seth.
Hello, how's it?
Hi. Yeah, good. Thank you. This is Shola here. Babatunde, have you finished with your question?
You can go. I go after you. Go on.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Thanks
So my question is, well, first of all, I want to appreciate all the effort you've put in to get all these fantastic indicators and sort of learning process into play.
Thanks,
and
man.
the second, you're welcome. Second question is, how do we get the gummies airdrop? Because I filled out the form. I've got, I believe.
Do
you want to answer him?
Yeah, but before you go carry on, I wanted to jump in so it would cover that because I've had a feeling it was going to come up. Once we're done the training, guys, join me in the voice chat. I spent the day yesterday with a few of our members. They were able to claim their airdrop even from places and wallets that they thought were not possible. So come on in to the voice chat after the everybody's welcome after the training. I'm happy to show you how to work through your Web3 wallets, how to make those claims if you got Coinbase wallets, etc., and we'll get you guys those gummies.
Okay, because mine is a bunk bot wallet on Telegram.
We'll figure it out.
Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, that's covers everything. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man.
All right.
Any other questions, Mo?
Yes.
Babatunde, I think he's had his hand up for a while, actually, Seth.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yes. Babatunde has been having his hand up for a while.
Okay, thank you. And thank you once again for the continuous improvement and education.
Pleasure, my friend.
Because better traders. Okay. My issue, though I've not done much of trading, I've just been reading. What I'm looking from the chart and from trying to analyze the chart is I'm trying to see that I would need to be sitting long in front of the computer to know. I mean, say an example when you start a trade, and it goes up and it reverses before reaching the your target or resistance, and it just turned down on you. You might lose money in that way unless you're actually physically there to read it at that time.
Yes, exactly.
I've tried to put in some. I've tried to put my alert in, but the alert have failed. I'm not sure if I'm doing the alert wrongly.
Okay.
Which I got the alert after that event, so by the time I got there, it was too late. Is there anything you can suggest that one can do in this case, rather than reducing your targets? Because you can't even know, you don't know how far it's going to go or how low it's going to turn.
I know. You see, we don't know. The best thing you can do is always enter your long position at the low of the daily range, because then you have the greatest chance of it making bigger moves and not reducing. So number one is you can just focus on entering at the low of the range, which is going to be probably the best option. The only other option is you take smaller targets, and then you don't have to worry about that. You just exit at a smaller target, or you can increase. You see, there's not much else you can do than that. I've also today with the new update, I've included more alerts onto TrendX. So now if you select alerts, it's going to show you all the alerts. It's going to have alerts at the bottom of the range, top of the range, and at the pivot. So that could definitely help as well in letting you know.
Okay, awesome. And I'm not sure if I heard you, the Scanner X, is that available only on a mobile phone, or can we have it on the computer?
You can have it on both. The only thing is, if you want to put it on a computer, you have to download another app called BlueStacks. It's a BlueStacks. I can give you a link in the group. And what it does is it allows you to project your phone onto your computer, so you can run phone apps on the computer.
On the computer. Okay. I will look to if you send that to us, that would be appreciated, please.
Yep, I'll put it in the group afterwards. Otherwise, if I do, if you don't find it, just send me a message as well. Then I can give it specifically to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
We would want also to access it. So putting it in a group is much beneficial.
Perfect. I will put it in the group.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, perfect. I'll post it in the announcements tab afterwards. I'll just post a post.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Hi, Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. How are you
I
doing?
have a question. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much.
Great.
I have a
Yes.
question about the TDX.
Yes.
When you put it on this token, it shows there's two options. There's a dots and there's a printed word that says buy. Which one is the strongest one? Which one should you follow if you were waiting to buy?
This is the strongest one with the dot. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
This is going to be the strongest one because you've got price hitting basically oversold level and it's breaking out of the band. So the dot is going to be the strongest. Also, this is also going to be very strong. So what you've got to do is you've actually got to pay attention to the shape. So if you can see that price is broken out and look, it's like a V. This is what we want to look for. We want to look for a V. The sharper the V, it's showing us that the price it's this counter trend, it's breaking down and there's going to be a sharper reversal. Like you can see over here. Look how we've got this come down and shoot up. So it all depends on the shape. But the biggest reversals are going to occur when they're at this low, at the green region, which is the overbought region. These are going to be the biggest reversals. And these are very solid. See, also, like if you look at this here, these are also very good. They're not going to be as big because they're not coming down to the low, but you can see here, this is where I look for. Look at this V. There's this V happening. So that's why it's called a shark fin, because the more it looks like a shark fin, like look at this one. This is a very good one as well, because it looks very much like a V. And if you see, if we look at the chart, you'll see that these were very, very good ones, just primarily because of the V. Look at the reversal. I mean, this was like 5% reversal. And here we've got another one happening. So this could actually be a very nice opportunity over here. But I mean, it's one thing, I don't recommend people to enter just off the TDIX. It's good to use it in combination with it reaching a level, if it gets to a key level and you get them. But yeah, the ones I look for are these, where they've got this sharp up, because you'll see the difference between, like you'll see here, this wouldn't have been a good sign because it came down, it didn't come back in. So it's kind of like it's breaking out, but it's just dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. But remember, we always want to see it come back into the band before we enter.
Okay. Yeah.
If it stays out of the band, yeah. Sorry.
Normally what I do is I wait for when the coin drops like 50, sometimes you see a coin that dropped 60% down.
Yes.
I wait and then I go to the indicators and then they give you levels. The lowest support they show to you, and when it hits that support, I buy slowly and then I build up as I go.
Yes, that's great. That's a very good idea, because you know when it's going to get to these low points, like over here, if it gets to, this is a low, this is a low, and this is a low. So if it gets to any of these levels, you can start looking like kind of dollar cost averaging. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. So I don't put all the money I plan to buy on that token. I bought 50% and then I bought more and then I put until I run out of money. And sometimes you see it goes all the way to the lowest one. It hits and it bounces off. I put all the money in there and then wait.
Okay, that makes sense, because this is what price will do. Price, if price breaks this low of the range and goes to here, if it does go here, this is the point where it has a very high chance of kind of reversing,
Yeah, it does.
And then we can also look to the TDIX to see if we get a confirmation at that level, which would be, this would be a very good confirmation to see at any one of these levels, at this level, or this level.
Well, this is why I like this indicator. Before I would wait and then it shows you that there's a 50% down on the token and you buy it, but then it still goes down. With this token, it tells you to wait. So there's a bit of patience. Once you wait and it drops to the floor, really And if you check the stochastic RSI, the the RSI is really resetted on multiple different time frames.
Yes, great. Yeah, that sounds like a great strategy you got there. Very nice.
Yeah, thank you, Jawad. That is very beautiful insight.
Hi,
Nice.
Seth. Sorry, I have a quick question. In your team inside, is it possible to add a gold tab for gold as well? Because I know.
You know what?
Would like
I was actually thinking that today. I am going to ask him to add a gold. Because he trades gold every day, so it should be very easy for him to share his setups there for everyone and his bias and everything. He'll probably love that actually because he loves gold. If you haven't noticed.
I've been inspired by his gold trading. I've never traded gold before, but I've taken a few trades. But it would be nice to see, even before I look at his insight to do my own and see if it matches. And instead of like messaging him specifically on gold, if it's in that, everyone can have insight to that.
Yes, great
thank
idea.
you so much.
I will speak to him about that. Thank you.
And a second question, in terms of Scanner X app, for some reason I can't see the sentiment one. Do I need to update the version? Or...
Yes. You must update to the newest version. So you can either uninstall it and then reinstall it, or just message me and I'll send you the link if you're having trouble.
Okay, I'll try uninstalling first and reinstall. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for all the innovation. We really appreciate it, and it's been an amazing experience. You're adding value for us every day. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm so happy. Thank you for that. All right, guys, who's next? Who's next to the question?
Yes, Seth, thank you so much for everything you do. I've got a question about the how do I load the next week pivots and the next day pivot into trading view, because I can't see it yet.
Okay, let me show you. I'll actually do it right now for you so that you can see. I've just got to unshare and then reshare my window. Can you see me inside the Discord now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. So all you do is you come down to the pivots over here. Let's say the daily pivots, and then you come to the bottom.
I know that. No, what I mean is the future pivots. Like
the future pivots.
Yeah, I can't see it in the trading view yet.
Oh, okay. What you're gonna have to do is probably refresh your trading view, because I only added it like 20 minutes before the live. So see if you can do a super refresh of your trading view, and you should find it here in the settings. Should the next day pivot?
Okay.
It should definitely be there. Otherwise, just log out and log back in, and it should be there. But I'm pretty sure it's there because I've checked on here and it's reloaded on mine. Can anyone confirm they've received it on theirs?
Yes, but you have to remove it from the chart and then add it again. Then it works.
Okay, thanks. I'll do that.
Okay, great. Awesome. Great. More confirmation. So it looks like it is working, guys. All right, who's next?
I think it's me.
Hello, Amir. How you doing?
Hi, Seth. Great. Eventually got the Scanner X. My question, I don't know, maybe you've gone through it already. I was late. I was taking the dog for a walk and listening to Dan's gummy thing.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Did anyone ask you how this scanner works? I mean, you've got all the main sexes. I mean, I don't understand how it works. That's the thing. Yeah, I've got the monthly, weekly, daily, and it says 78%, 95%, 95 it can't be 5%, and then it's got weekly 95. I mean, how do we use it? I mean, if it's too long, you can point me to the right area.
Yeah. You know what? In this training a little bit earlier today, I actually spoke about this.
Okay,
I went into I did about a 20 minutes in detail talking about how to use this. I think it'll answer all your questions. If it doesn't, after that, just send me a message and I can give you more. But I think it'll cover everything for you.
All right. The other question was, you said you were going to give us gummies and we get it through the banter. I mean, how much each of us got allocated from you, gummies? Can you tell us that?
You know what? It wasn't coming from me. It was all coming from Banter. Banter, remember, Banter is a partner of Easy Algo, so they give all their partners access. And they just gave me the form. You filled it out, and I just gave it back to them. I don't really know. I don't know too much about the details. I have asked it. I have requested it, and I'm actually waiting to get details from them because I don't even know. Like I have no idea how they did the allocations, and I would love to know. And as soon as I find out, I will definitely let everyone know.
Thank you. That's it. Cheers, man.
Cheers, buddy.
Hello, I think I go next.
Yes. How you doing, Christopher? How's it going?
I'm all right. Thank you again for everything. Just pointed that Tommy is looking on the prediction as a very narrow daily, very, very narrow.
Wait, on which one? Let me have a look.
Tommy.
Okay, let's check it out.
It's the one Pramod pointed out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, perfect. Let's check it out. It's TOMI.
Yeah.
Is it very narrow? Yeah, I haven't even I mean, this is all very new, this new, so I haven't even had a chance to like test it properly. Let's have a look here. Wow, look at that. Hey, that's amazing. That's a very nice. Cool, guys. So keep an eye out on Tommy. It's above the weekly and looks like...
Its weekly is really narrow as well because Pramod pointed out. So this is a really narrow one with a single line weekly.
Oh, really? Let's have a look at the weekly as well. Yeah, look at that here. Super weekly. Let's turn the daily off. Great. Yeah, look at that. That's great. Cool, guys. Keep an eye out on this one because this one might make some big movements. You know, these narrows, like I've seen these narrows do big movements, like big explosions. So keep an eye out tomorrow because tomorrow could be a very good trading day now that we can see that the daily is also looking super narrow. Here we go. The future daily. It's amazing how we can look into the future now. Eh? Look at that. This would have been such a good entry over here, actually. Above the weekly, got into the pivot. Fantastic. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. That's awesome.
Seth, how much back testing are you going to have to do before you're going to integrate future daily as part of the strategy? Like giving us a, best not to consider it till this time in the day or,
Yeah, exactly. It's been hard for me to backtest because I have to stay awake until like 1 a.m., late at night to be able to backtest. And lately I'm going to bed earlier, but I'll play around with it and everyone else can play around with it as well. It's basically the same strategy. It's just looking 2 to 3 hours before the market closes to get a general idea of what the next day's pivot's going to be and where it's going to be positioned. But I'll definitely make a little slideshow for you guys, maybe for the next training, and I'll show you what to look out for because I've got already a lot of ideas. I just got to put it together.
One of the concerns that I would have is, looking back, we always have at the end of the daily candle close just beforehand, a lot of the tokens make these extreme moves, which would imbalance what the next pivot would be. So almost a word of caution to not try to enter too early off of it, but be prepared for where the pivot is, but watch for that final move on your asset before you go ahead and commit to the trade.
The nice thing about it is it changes. So like if the price is to move up, the grid will get wider. So it actually changes kind of in real time.
Yes, I was just saying that in the real time, it could make a drastic shift in where the pivot would be because of those major moves 5-10 minutes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I mean, there's still going to be a little bit of testing, and if any of you guys play around with it, please let me know what you discover as well. But at least we got a bit of insight, and there's still the future weekly and the future monthly, which I haven't even tested out. So at the end of the week, maybe like on Friday or Saturday, we could look at the weeklies to get an idea of what the narrow weeklies will be before they happen.
It's in this tonight, Seth, for sure. I'll be on this token tonight at early hours of the morning for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not missing out again. No.
Yeah, well, hopefully this is going to help you now, man. That was a good spot, and
I'll let you know.
Yeah. Let me know for sure. Please do. Let us all know. All right,
can I jump in with a question? My hand's up. My hand isn't raising. So, do you mind if I jump in with a quick couple of questions?
Always, Gordon.
The first one, I just want to make a comment. Besides everyone who's shown their appreciation, yeah, absolutely incredible. You remind me a little bit like of Elon Musk. He doesn't really give a shit about what other people think, as long as he helps the community, which I think you have demonstrated in volume. So, yeah,
that's my
add
goal.
my voice to the appreciation everyone else has given here.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thank you for bringing all this, and also bringing a brilliant community, just like, Christopher and Henry and Bob, bringing these little ideas like Tommy to us, and Bell. It's just incredibly powerful. So well done. You've attracted some really good souls here. So thank you.
I have. I feel so blessed. I feel so blessed to have.
Well, I think it's the energy you're putting out is attracting it all back to you, which is great.
Thanks so much for that.
I had a stupid basic question, so I'm almost embarrassed to ask it, but
don't be.
I just have to ask. I've seen these things like R1s and R2s and S1s and S2s and stuff. Can you just explain how they created? Where do I see them? And once I see them, I'll know how to interpret them, but I don't know how they created and what do they represent? I understand they represent take profit 1 and take profit 2, but we have a slightly different meaning as well, right?
Yeah. Let me show you. I'll put them here. So I'll get them nicely on the chart for you. So you can see this is the whole grid over here.
Yeah.
We've got the pivots in the center of the grids.
Yep.
So I'll mark it out nicely for you so we can see. So this is the pivots in the center. And this is the center of the range. And then over here, these two blue lines over here are going to represent the previous day low and the support 1 level. Support 1. So one of these is the previous day low, one is the support level. And then the ones above, the 2 blue on top, are going to be the previous day high. Previous day high. And resistance 1 level.
So the one above it is the resistance 1, the one below it is the previous day high. Is that right? Or the other way around?
Yes. It's hard to know because they'll never be like one or the other, they'll change. You'll have to see, like what I'll do is I can measure here. This was the high from the previous day. So this one's the previous day high in this scenario, and that's resistance 1. So like,
does it make any difference to the take profits?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. You'll like the first take profit, like I would structure depending on how wide this is. If the previous day, if it's wide, I would take the first one as the profit.
Lowest one,
if it's narrow,
the highest one on the other side. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then over here we've got this would be resistance number 2, and the next one would be resistance number 3. R3.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you. That makes complete sense now. I can see how what they mean. Yeah. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. It's just kind of split up.
And the last thing, just as a shout out to Pramod, I was watching some of his training earlier today, and there was one around, I think it was the 8th or 11th of April. And somebody in the group just said, can you just give me a read on the chart? And I think it was ONG or something. I have a feeling it was ONG. And never even heard of this thing before. And he opened this chart, and within 5 minutes, he read the chart. And I thought, I wonder if this panned out. And I went and had a look, and it was picture perfect. It was absolutely ridiculously good. I just, I'm thinking, the man hasn't traded crypto.
Yeah, no, never.
In 5 minutes, he looked at a brand new coin, probably about 2 months old, if not less, and he's read what's happening next, and it happened. I mean, goodness me, the man.
Yeah, no, he's good, guys. He's very good.
He's a genius. You've attracted, like I said, some great souls. So thank you for that.
And he's a nice guy. He's like a very nice person as well.
Oh, he's the most generous. He's the most generous with his thinking and his ideas. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, guys, we've got a great thing going here for all of us.
So yes, thank you, and yeah, really appreciate this group, and Yeah, I can see some really nice things. I got to just have the time and confidence to jump.
Definitely. We're still
around.
early. We're still in the early
stay
days.
I might stay up and do Tommy.
Yeah, let us know. Let us know. Let's do it. All right, guys. I think I'm going to hit it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry?
I'm going to ask for the live call for the voice call for Gummy. How do we get connected to there, or do we just stay on this?
Oh, I'll show you. So let me show you over here. If you can see, I'll show you where it'll be.
In Traders Chat already.
Yeah, you can see. So if you come to the Traders Chat over here, the live chat, everyone's going to hop in here. Can
also, there's a link in Traders Chat. I just posted and tagged everyone.
Oh, cool. Let's go there now. So if we go, here we go. So if you come to the bottom of the Traders Chat, here's the link to hop in, guys. Alrighty, guys. Thanks for tuning in to another amazing training. Happy trading. Take what I've shared, back test, forward test, and have fun trading. And we'll see you in the group. See you guys later.
Thank you.
Pleasure, guys. Cheers.